Picture this. You've just loaded up a moving truck with all your belongings, and you've been dreaming for ages about living close to the beautiful Rocky Mountains, the fresh air, the stunning views. What's not to love? So you sign a 30-year mortgage on a house that seems like a great deal, thinking you've made an awesome investment. Fast forward 6 months and things aren't quite what you imagined. Instead of hiking in the mountains, you find yourself sitting in 2 hours of traffic. Your backyard feels more like a punishment because of the unpleasant smells coming from a nearby refinery. And to top it all off, property values in your area are flat, while crime rates are climbing. This unfortunate reality hits hard for countless newcomers every year who focused more on prices than the real data. Colorado boasts some of the highest real estate prices in the country, but a hefty price tag doesn't always mean safety or a good quality of life. I'm about to take you on a tough road trip through the state to uncover the 10 suburbs that can be financial and lifestyle traps. These spots come with glaring statistics on crime, poverty, and environmental risks. Info that your real estate agent might not mention. We'll be exposing the truth, starting from the industrial areas north of Denver to the misleading neighborhoods around Colorado Springs. If you care about your hard-earned money and want to keep your peace of mind, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Mortgage Monitor, and drop a comment below about which state you think we should look into next. Now let's buckle up and hit the road to places you really wouldn't want to call home. Let's kick things off with number 10, Loch Buoy. We start our adventure way out in the far northeast part of the Denver metro area. You might think you're scoring big if you see a spacious new build for a fraction of what you'd spend in downtown Denver. It can feel like such a steal. But as you exit the interstate and cruise through the flat plains of Weld County, you might catch a whiff of something in the air. That's right. The mix of agriculture and industry wafting around serves as a warning sign that this area might not be as great as it seems. Loch Buoy creates a false sense of affordability that disappears once you start calculating the real cost of living here. It's practically in the middle of nowhere, which means your experience here might be a lot different than you'd hoped. Let's talk about some suburbs in Colorado that might not be the best places to buy a home, starting with the fact that your daily commute could turn into a real drag. Imagine spending over 45 minutes just getting to your job every day. That's a lot of time lost. The numbers show that commutes here are much longer than what you'd find nationally, and that can feel pretty soul-crushing every week. Now, you might think living far away from the city means you're escaping crime, but that's not the case. Property crime rates in this area are climbing, sitting about 20% higher than the national average. So before you feel too safe, remember that the statistics don't paint such a rosy picture. Also, when it comes to taxes, watch out. This suburb is in a tax district where you could end up paying way more in property taxes than what's reasonable, especially considering what services you actually receive. You're paying urban rates for more rural amenities, which seems off. If you have kids, education is a biggie to think about. Local schools here are not doing so well, consistently landing in the bottom half of state performance metrics. Kids' test scores trail behind nearby districts by about 30%. So, when you combine long commutes, mediocre schools, and even some unpleasant odors from places like feedlots, the resale value of your home might take a hit. You're really investing in a community that's struggling to keep up. Before you put pen to paper on that home purchase, ask yourself if spending 2 hours a day driving really makes sense for the savings you think you're getting. Moving on to Fountain, it's a spot that might look attractive at first, especially if you're one of the many military folks moving to the area. It's super close to Fort Carson, so the shorter commute may seem appealing. What's not so obvious is that this market has been historically shaky, affected by environmental concerns that civilian real estate agents often won't discuss. The biggest red flag here is water contamination worries. This neighborhood has faced scrutiny for years due to PFAS chemicals found in the groundwater, and that's something you definitely want to keep in mind before making any real estate decisions. So, let's chat about 2 Colorado suburbs that might not be the best places to buy a home. First up is Fountain. Now, it's kind of rough around the edges because of things like firefighting foams used at the nearby airfields. Even though there are systems to help with mitigation, the environmental reports still drop hints about a long-term stigma attached to the zip code. This bad rep can really hold back your home's value, especially when compared to those booming northern neighborhoods like Northgate. Essentially, your equity might get stuck in a slow growth zone. And then there's safety. You'd think a military-heavy area would be safer, right? Well, local crime stats show that Fountain's violent crime rate has actually shot up to nearly double the Colorado average in recent years. Plus, there's concerning news about property crime. Your odds of becoming a victim here are about 1 in 34, which feels like a pretty risky roll of the dice every time you park your car outside. Economically, Fountain struggles too. The poverty rate hovers around 10%, which feels high for a working class suburb, and rental vacancy rates can swing wildly, often around 7%. If you think about turning your home into an investment property, that's a big risk compared to other areas. Simply put, you might be buying a home with a hefty anchor of risk tied to it. If you want your investment to grow safely, you might want to keep looking. Now, let's turn our attention to Evans. When you think of this area, it often gets overshadowed by its bigger neighbor, Greeley. Evans might catch your eye because it usually has some of the lowest prices in the whole Front Range urban corridor. If you're on a tight budget, it looks like a good option. But hold that thought because this place has some serious issues. For decades, Evans has been trying to shake off a reputation as the rougher, less desirable sibling in Weld County. The main problem is that the environmental risks combined with a stagnant economy could trap your equity in a home that nobody else wants when you're ready to sell and move on. And then you have to consider safety. The crime stats are pretty alarming, with violent crime over 40% higher than the Colorado average. And for property crime, scary enough that it's nearly 60% over the national average. This isn't just about losing packages from your porch. It shows a deeper issue with theft and burglary that really affects the community. Let's talk about some areas in Colorado where buying a home may not be the best idea, specifically starting with Evans. You might not be aware, but the poverty rate there is over 15%, which means a lot of your future neighbors could be struggling financially. Plus, the area's geography raises some serious concerns. Parts of Evans sit in the floodplain of the South Platte River, and there's a history of devastating floods that have completely destroyed mobile home parks and damaged homes, leading to millions in property losses. This risk can make insurance costs skyrocket, draining any savings you might have had. And then there's the schools, which have graduation rates significantly lower than the state average. So, when you're thinking about purchasing a home here, you're stepping into a high-risk flood zone alongside crime issues and underperforming schools. It's pretty much the definition of a real estate trap, so don't let those low prices trick you into buying something that could turn into a money pit. Now, let's move over to Commerce City. As you head south toward downtown Denver, you'll find this suburb well known for its industrial vibe. It's often joked about because of its smell, mainly due to the giant Suncor oil refinery that's a major part of the skyline. While developers are trying to give this area a facelift with new homes in the northern part, the core problems still exist. Buying a home nearby means living right next to one of the largest polluters in the area. The trap here is believing that the new homes are far enough away to avoid the negative impacts, but we all know that wind carries everything. Honestly, the environmental concerns are alarming for anyone who cares about their health. Commerce City is often listed among the worst places for air quality in the whole country, leading to a higher risk of respiratory problems for residents. There have also been a lot of air quality violations reported against local industries, which is more than just a minor inconvenience. It's a genuine health threat. On top of that, let's chat about crime rates, which are shockingly high. The violent crime rate here is more than double the national average, so your chances of falling victim to a crime are about 1 in 22. Financially, it might look appealing because you can get more space for your buck. In fact, you can snag a big house for what a condo might cost in Denver, but the drawbacks are pretty steep. The reputation of the local schools often holds back home value appreciation, making it a risky investment. All right, let's talk about Clifton, Colorado. So, we're on the western side of the state, near Grand Junction. It's beautiful in its own rough way, but this suburb is definitely a warning sign for anyone thinking of investing. Clifton's like a bedroom community for Grand Junction, but it just doesn't have the same charm or facilities. If you're a remote worker or a retiree looking for an affordable desert spot, you might be in for a rude awakening. This area has some pretty serious social issues, including substance abuse and neglected properties. The statistics are pretty eye-opening. Clifton has one of the highest crime rates in western Colorado, with property crime rates consistently about 80% higher than the national average. You definitely want to keep your car locked up around here. The local economy isn't looking great either, with a poverty rate lingering around 20%. That means 1 in every 5 people in your neighborhood is living below the poverty line, which affects everything from local services to community vibes. And speaking of homes, a lot of the housing here is older mobile homes and transient residences, which really keeps property values low. While the prices for homes might seem super appealing at first, don't be fooled. The chances of making a profit when it's time to sell are pretty dismal compared to other spots in Colorado. Unemployment rates here generally run 2 to 3 percentage points higher than the state average, and local schools are struggling with funding and keeping students enrolled. So sure, you might snag a house for a great price, but getting back your investment later, that'll be a challenge. Trust me, the cycle of poverty in this area is tough to break, and it's not where you want to put your life savings. Let's take a closer look at a suburb you might want to think twice about before buying a home. Inglewood. You may feel like you're hitting the jackpot with its close proximity to Denver, easy access to the light rail system, and being next to some fancy neighborhoods. But don't be fooled. There's a lot more to consider beneath that shiny surface. While it may seem convenient and affordable, the safety concerns in this area are pretty alarming. You might feel secure, but the statistics tell a different story. The property crime rate here is nearly 90% higher than the national average. That's almost double what you'd find in a typical American town. When you dig deeper, you'll see that the overall crime rate in Inglewood sits about 70% higher than the average for Colorado. We're not just talking about petty thefts either. It's a serious issue with theft and burglary happening far too often. If you park on the street, you're taking a real risk. Your chances of becoming a crime victim here are 1 in 4. For a safe neighborhood, that number should be around 1 in 100. Plus, the mix of old industrial areas paired with residential streets brings heavy traffic and noise right to your home. To make matters worse, the poverty rate hovers around 12%, showing that not all parts of Denver are recovering economically. Before you decide on that cute bungalow near the hospital, be sure to check the crime map. You definitely don't want to be filing a police report within your first week. Next on my list is Twin Lakes, located at the northern edge of Denver. The name sounds lovely, almost like something out of a serene postcard. When you hear it, you might picture a tranquil spot perfect for living. But hold on, we need to see what lies beneath that pretty name before you jump in. Imagine living by the water, enjoying morning jogs along the shore, and having a peaceful escape from all the city noise. Sounds great, right? But hold on, that's just the enticing image. The real situation might shock you once you sign on the dotted line. Instead of that dream resort lifestyle, you step into a place that's aging, struggling with failing infrastructure, and facing serious socioeconomic issues. You might think you're paying for a prime location, but in reality, you could end up worrying about your safety every day. Let's talk about Twin Lakes. Its name sounds peaceful, but the safety record is a major red flag. Crime reports show that the crime rate here is nearly double the national average. That means living here means you face a 1 in 20 chance of theft or vandalism each year. Imagine waking up wondering if your car is still outside, and it gets worse as violent crime rates are about 60% higher than the average in Colorado. Economically, Twin Lakes is lagging behind. The poverty rate hovers around 14%, and the average household income falls well below the state average. Plus, most homes are older, mainly from the 70s, which means you might snag a low purchase price, but then end up dealing with costly renovations. On top of that, local schools aren't performing well, with test scores trailing behind nearby districts significantly. While the lakes might draw you in, the liabilities could send you packing. If you're considering a move here, make sure to visit at night first. Now, let's head east from the capital to Aurora. This massive city, the third largest in Colorado, could seem like a perfect landing spot for newcomers, thanks to its wide range of housing options. From starter homes to larger estates, it looks like the ideal suburban place to settle down. But don't be fooled by its size. It hides a dangerous safety dilemma from one street to the next that has caught many homebuyers off guard. You might think you're making a smart move by buying a home in Aurora, but the reality is a bit troubling. Sure, you might picture a peaceful cul-de-sac, but the stats suggest otherwise. This suburb has been known for having one of the highest rates of car thefts in the entire country. Every year, thousands of vehicles disappear from the streets, which definitely makes parking your car at home a risky business. The property crime rate here is really high, about 70% more than the national average, so it's not just about leaving your door unlocked. There's a bigger issue of theft in the area. And let's not forget about violent crime. The rate of aggravated assaults is notably above what you'd typically see in Colorado, making your chances of experiencing a violent crime here about 1 in 140. That's a far cry from the friendly suburban life that most people picture. The situation doesn't get any better when it comes to commuting. Interstate 225, which runs through the city, is often a mess, turning what should be a quick 20-minute drive into an hour-long hassle. Plus, with the poverty rate in the northern parts of the city sitting around 15%, you'll find pockets of economic issues that really affect home values in the area. If you're looking at moving here, just know that you're stepping into a place where the chances of dealing with theft are higher than nearly anywhere else in Colorado. And before you sign any papers, make sure to check what your car insurance premiums would be. They might reveal some truths that the listing agent won't tell you. Now let's head down south for number 2, Pueblo. After about a 2-hour drive from the Denver area, you'll find a city that's become super tempting for home buyers feeling frustrated. Pueblo shows off beautiful historic Victorian homes and solid craftsman bungalows, all at prices that seem too good to be true. Way cheaper than a tiny studio apartment back in Denver. You might convince yourself that the commute isn't bad or that you can work from home, thinking you've outsmarted the system. But here's the catch. It's not really about the charm of the house. It's about the risk that comes with the neighborhood. You could be moving into a lovely home, but the streets around it are statistically some of the most dangerous in the state. You know, the crime situation in Pueblo, Colorado is pretty shocking and has been going on for a while. Recent reports from the FBI show that it consistently has the highest violent crime rate per person in the whole state. We're talking about numbers that are more than double the national average, which includes a serious number of aggravated assaults and homicides for a city of its size. Property crime isn't any better either. Folks here have about a 1 in 20 chance of experiencing theft or burglary each year. It's a place where you really have to stay alert, and honestly, that can wear you out. Then there's the economic side of things. Pueblo faces some tough challenges that can really hurt property values. The poverty rate is around 24%, one of the highest in the area, meaning nearly a quarter of the people live below the federal poverty line. This situation hits the tax base hard, affecting funding for schools and keeping up with infrastructure. Plus, the unemployment rate is usually above the state average, making for a shaky local economy. While the low home prices might seem tempting, the resale values often suffer because of what the neighborhood is known for. Sure, you could snag a historic mansion, but you'd also be taking on a lot of worry about crime and a sluggish economy. Don't get too distracted by the vintage appeal. There are modern risks lurking. Now let's talk about the number 1 worst real estate trap in Colorado, Sheridan. This little city just south of Denver might seem lively at first glance. It's got a big shopping center called River Point filled with stores and restaurants. Sounds good, right? But trust me, this is a major trap. All that commercial activity messes with the population stats, making the crime rates look sky high. Sheridan has repeatedly been at the top of the list for the highest crime rates in the entire state, and it's not even a close competition. Let's check out some of the scary numbers. In some years, the property crime rate here has been over 400% higher than the national average. A lot of this is due to shoplifting at those big stores, but it definitely spills over into the neighborhoods. Violent crime is way up too, often sitting at 3 times the state average. Living here means you're used to hearing about criminal activity as part of daily life. Hey there. So, let's chat about a suburb in Colorado that might not be what it seems. Sheridan. Did you know that the poverty rate here is over 20%? That's a stark difference compared to nearby Littleton, which is pretty affluent. And it gets worse. The school district is tiny and really struggles with graduation rates often below 70%. That leaves kids in a tough spot, unprepared for what's ahead. Now, here's the kicker. The location can be misleading. You're just minutes from downtown, which sounds great, but the crime rates are pretty high, and that really brings down home values. You can't just leave your windows open or let the kids play outside without keeping an eye on them. It feels more like you're living in a fortress than a home. It's honestly one of the most deceptive traps you can find in Colorado, draining both your finances and your peace of mind. Sure, Colorado is absolutely stunning and many people love living here, but don't let the breathtaking mountain views fool you into ignoring some hard truths. There are areas that have serious issues, along with financial risks that could totally derail your American dream. Remember, buying a house is likely the biggest investment you'll make, so don't let it turn into a mistake. I'm here to help you make the right choice. If you found this info useful, give that like button a tap to help spread the word. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insights on where to move and areas to avoid. And I'd love to hear from you. Do you think our list is spot on? Did we miss any suburbs that should be on here? Share your thoughts so we can all learn together. Thanks for tuning into this chat, and I'll catch you in the next one.